I feel like I do have my days where I feel like it's very unfortunate that my father took away my many opportunities that I could have had to really live up to my potential. So there's that. So that can be hurtful sometimes, but in general, I am happy that
You
I'm
want me to get some tissue?
thriving.
I can get some tissue.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
sure.
sure.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be thriving. I'm happy to have discovered the ability to take what happened to me and use it for positive and help other people. So
And I just want to say, I'm going to give you a hug after this because, honestly, and this is exactly why I wanted you on here, because I know it's somebody out there that's going to be able to gain from this. And even though it's still a struggle for you on some days, where you still have what you've been able to accomplish till today is still powerful. And I don't want you to minimize it or mitigate it in any capacity. I know you said you feel like you started late, but that was your divine time. So I want you to remember that, because I don't never ever want a day to go by where you feel like you started late and somebody got the head on you. Trust me, they ain't got the head on you. You what you've been able to overcome and went through, they a lot of people would have never survived. And I'm not saying that as if it's a good thing that you went through it, but it's still a fact that you are powerful, that in a being that a lot of people wouldn't have been able to overcome or even being able to deal with.
yeah.
So I definitely want to commend you for that.
Well, thank you. I mean, thank you. I mean, in my work with my nonprofit, yeah, I understand that. So, I mean, so many people are out there suffering and cannot get past what happened to them. The fact that someone violated their trust at their most vulnerable point in human development, which is, as a child, or even in dealing with intimate partner violence. When you open your heart to somebody, right, you allow yourself to be vulnerable, and then they take that to use it against you. That's traumatic. And there are a lot of people out there that can't manage and can't handle it. So yeah, I definitely understand. And I mean, sometimes when I think about some of the things that I've been through, I'm like, damn. Damn. And then when I learn more about children who are still going through it and people who are still going through it, I'm like, damn. Like, I can't sit still. I can't not do anything.
And that's the fight. And I'm glad you have that, because some people have given up, and just being that they've been so in that dark place for so long that they don't know how to come out of it, even though their power is enough if they put it in the right direction to truly help somebody out. And with that, I want to ask, when did you, if this is the case, when did you come to the terms of forgiving your mom, if you did? And we're going to get to your dad. Okay. So let's talk about that, because how can you've been able to do it? So how can somebody else, a child, obviously, once they evolve and grow and get to that place of healing, because I'm going to manifest that they get to that place of healing. I wouldn't want nothing else for them. How do you navigate through that, of them being able to forgive each parent, no matter the one that did it and then the one that they everybody guilty at this point? Whether you the one that did it or you the one that watched it, you're guilty still on the same level. So how do you give them that level of, you can forgive them? Like, how did that work out for you to even be able to forgive her?
I think one, understanding that she was a victim as well, right? That's one thing. And also, I think forgiveness is not for the other person. It's for the person that is forgiving, right? It's not that who is receiving the forgiveness, but those that are bestowing the forgiveness. And my interpretation of it is removing the responsibility of your own healing away from that person. So, for instance, with my mom, there was her inaction, that she didn't do anything to protect her children. She didn't do anything to protect me, but then she became resentful of me. Then she started being in competition with me. She told me that She can't compete with me because my father likes children. He wants to have sex with children. She's not a child. So, but she put that on me. So then as I get older and I tell myself that yes, what she said and what she did hurt me, but at the same time, I can't keep holding her accountable for me being able to get past it. I can't continue to blame her and make her responsible for my healing. So I forgave her because yes, I understand that it's a very difficult decision. I mean, I can't imagine what it must be like for a parent to find out that the person that they love is hurting their child. I can't fathom what that must be like, and the decisions that you do have to make. And while anyone can say, well, as a mom, I would protect my child hand and foot. But there are so many, for every idea that you may have to protect them, there's also another reason where a circumstance. Well, then what do you say for the parent that is completely dependent financially on the offending parent? Or like
it's not easy.
Us on the outside, it's not saying it's impossible.
Correct.
You know, you can make the right decision, but it's not easy. And that's what it is. These things don't come naturally, and no one knows how they're going to respond once they find out that information. It's devastating. It's devastating to find out that your child has been violated by anyone, and your scruples are just all over the place. So a lot of people say that I give her excuses. I don't see them as excuses. It's understanding for me, right? I have to put myself in her position and as a parent.
Which takes a lot.
Right, but it's necessary as a parent because I'm not perfect. She's not perfect. I'm not perfect. And I have to acknowledge that there is a possibility that if I was in the position that she was in, I might not make the ideal decision either. And I think recognizing that we are all flawed and that we have the potential of probably making some of the worst decisions, that then you can show grace for those that actually are put in that position and then are tested and then fail the test. So that was part of it. Plus then I wanted to have a mother-daughter relationship with her. And I think that my desire to do that was more about transforming what happened to us and not allowing it to continue to destroy us. So what my father did, I did not want him to continue to dictate what my relationship with my mother was anymore. So I chose to develop a relationship with her, see her for her positives, see her for her beauty, see her for her potential, and try to build a relationship with that aspect of her. I spoke candidly with her. She knew how I felt about the things that she did not do to protect us. I don't think she's forgiven herself. And she still allows some of the animosity that she had developed that my father kind of planted in her. Instilled in her. She still allowed it to control some of her decisions and how she interacted with my children. So I don't have a relationship with her anymore because I had to separate, even though I desired to even help her along her healing journey. Her attitude was affecting my kids too much negatively. And I essentially had to separate from her. So forgiveness is not easy.
It's not.
And it's not something that's done one time. You have to keep forgiving. And that's the thing about like with the human mind and how we recall information and our memories. You may be in a position where you are hurt or harmed or traumatized by someone but you don't always remember every aspect of it. And you may say, oh, I forgive this person. And now, we're functioning and we're moving forward. But then something may trigger a memory. Yeah, another experience or different perspective. And then you have to forgive them all over again. So
and hearing your perspective on that, I mean, honestly, I would have never thought about it how you just explained it. And I truly hope maybe that could give somebody else comfort in explaining, like, obviously, how would you react if you was in the positions reversed? And I know you said it seemed as if a lot of people said you was giving excuses, but I believe some of the things you have said are valid. And I think that takes a level of self-reliance, self-knowing, self-accountability, and true honesty and transparency with yourself to even think of what you just said. So I definitely commend you on that as well. And I'm sure you probably hope this maybe one day that she will reach, because evolving is different for everybody. Everybody's on their own timeline. So maybe one day that will happen. But I want to ask you with that, I know you said you have to keep forgiving people. At what point do you feel like it's being counterproductive if actions are still the same? Do you feel like it's no set number? At some point, you just have to just let it go for good, because that's, like, I know you said repeating, like, forgiving somebody repeatedly, but at that point, it's kind of like you're being taken advantage of, and somewhat it would make you stop healing. It's bringing back those memories where it's like it's doing, like I said, counterproductive.
Well, forgiving somebody does not mean that you have to still be around them. That's the thing. Like, I mean, I always say I love my mother from afar, right? Like, I genuinely love her as a human, but I have to do it from afar. I forgive her, but I have to do that from afar, because the fact is she has not grown to a point that I can allow her around me, and her being around me would do exactly what you mentioned.
You the other route.
Right. It could take me the other route and then hinder my own growth and development. So yeah, I've forgiven her, but we're not interacting for a reason. So yeah, you can forgive somebody. Like I said, if forgiveness is for yourself, it's not for them. My father is sitting in jail right now, and I forgive him. And I think that my ability to forgive really stems from my childhood. I think that children forgive their parents all the time. I think it comes to them like breathing, because one, they depend on their parents to protect them. They protect for their everyday, they depend on their parents to feed them. Like, why does a baby love their parent? Even if you say that it's biological or hormonal, but they don't agree with what their parents do to them. I mean, for those that raise their kids with spankings, your parent is intentionally inflicting pain on you, and you continue with your life. You forgive them, you move on. I think some scientists believe, well, their short-term memory allows them to kind of forget the incident a little bit. So I think me being tapped into my inner child, I use kind of the same philosophy or the same feeling. Every time my father molested me, every time he raped me, every time he hurt me, I forgave him, because I wanted him to still be my dad. I wanted him to still be the person that before he started abusing me, that he was, which was intelligent and funny and fun to be around, and who loved me. So because I still wanted that, then it made it a little easier to forgive him for hurting me, in hopes that he would stop hurting me eventually. Like, at some point, this is going to stop. I hope that he would stop hurting me. So yeah, now he's sitting in jail and I've forgiven him, but at the same time,
from a distance.
Yeah, from a distance. I would never let him around. Like, I
don't blame you.
And at some point, I do want to go visit him in jail to get his perspective as a predator, if he's willing to talk. Because in the work that I do, a lot of organizations, they focus on, of course, the survivors, of course, prevention. Like with Precious Little Ladies Inc., we focus on prevention. We focus on educating families. and giving them the tools that they need to prevent abuse. And then also we provide support services for if they have been abused. But we are really focusing as well on exposing predators. Correct. Seeing why they do what they do, how they take, what the techniques are, because we need that information in order to navigate it. And for those that are willing to talk, like, why are there people that are sexually attracted to children? I can't even comprehend that idea, but there are. What does that say about human sexuality and having control over it? Yeah. So is it a mental health issue? Is it a hormonal imbalance? And I think that because he was so, I mean, my father was demented. The things that he was into sexually, there are many of them that I have not written down. I have not repeated. I the only time I mentioned them was in court during his trial, and I just don't understand why. Like, what was in him that he was so determined to satiate this sexual desire, and how many people have that same potential, and how much do we work in order to control our sexual desires? So all of those things are important to me, and eventually I would like to go and talk to him if he's willing, to get an understanding now from my perspective of who I am now, from the perspective of a survivor and not as a victim, from a perspective of someone
no longer scared,
who's no longer afraid exactly of him. So I do plan to do that, but he's a person. He's just a person to me, and part of that is through forgiveness. I know he has his own issues, and him atoning for what he did is between him and God. I have nothing to do with that.
And I'm glad you took that off of your own account responsibility, because it's not. So and I believe I seen that he was sentenced to 99 years.
90 years.
90 years.
Yeah, he received 50 years for him abusing me, and 40 years for abusing one of my sisters.
Okay, so 90 years total. And how many has he served now at this point?
He was initially captured in 2006.
2006.
Yeah.
He ain't never coming home.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you. Yeah. And hey, he deserved that. And I think that's also commendable that you are willing to even go have a conversation, like you said, if he's willing. When you get to that point, I think that'll be a beautiful thing, because like you said, understanding the mindset, and I think that's stuff we need to study, because these is how these situations could be avoided. And when you think about it, this is a lifeline that's going to always be part of the family now, because it's something that happened, and obviously children were created out of it. So I want to ask you that too. Do you feel like, and I don't think it's a wrong answer on this, or even have your children told you that you're overprotective, but obviously for good reason?
No, I don't think they felt overprotected or restricted in any way. They wasn't allowed to have sleepovers. That's one thing. My daughter, there was one point, my daughter, she did have a sleepover, but I knew the mom very well. The mom was a police officer. She did not have a man in the house. So I did let her stay over. Of course, they could stay over at my grandmother's house. So, yeah, with really close family. I mean, most of the time I stayed over with them as well. But it was really about, even if you're like a helicopter parent, right? Meaning that you don't let your kids do things. You don't let them go out. I think the real key to protecting them is the open conversation, is allowing them, giving them the information, right? Giving them the information that they need in order to protect themselves, providing them with resources, helping them to understand that you are on their side and you are a support system in that way. It's like, it's us against the world. I think that's definitely something that I've instilled in my children. Like, look, I am there for you. If they told me that they was having issues with a teacher, I was rolling up in the school and I defended them like tooth and nail. If they were being bullied, if a teacher seemed to be singling them out, or like, and the teachers knew that, and that my children was very confident in that. So yeah, whenever they have any discomfort or issues or questions, they have no problem coming to me. And then it started to spill over to their friends. And before I knew it, all of their friends was
asking you for advice.
Yes,
that's a good thing though.
To me as well.
That's a good thing.
So it actually led to something that we created in my organization, Precious Little Ladies.
And I want to talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Okay, so it's called It's Okay to Tell Day. It's every March 16th, and the premise of It's Okay to Tell Day is for parents to allow their children to tell them, essentially confess anything that's going on in their lives.
Without the parent getting mad?
Exactly. Well, not without the parent getting mad, but without consequences. So that, look, my 16-year-old, he takes advantage of it. He looks forward to the
you
day.
Out. Have you reconsidering this day?
No, but it's so therapeutic between us because he feels like that. Okay, one, it's a pass for him, right? It's a pass for him. But then when he comes to me and he talks about these things, he asks questions. He's open to ask questions. He's open to then rethink the decisions that he made. If he was in a situation, then, he comes and talks to me about it on It's Okay to Tell Day. And that was an open space, a safe space for dialogue. And then that ended up just encouraging him to talk to me about things outside of that day. Now that didn't mean that there was no consequences.
He was like, dang, I gotta wait a whole year? It happened on the 17th. Now you gotta wait 365 days. Oh man.
Yeah, but
imagine.
But you'd be surprised how much open communication with your children, like how that really empowers them, because they feel like you're on their side. They feel like you're on their side, and they have an army behind them. So, I definitely encourage parents to do that.
Agree. I think I'm gonna incorporate that. My son too. So I don't know what he's gonna tell me. Probably tell me no, or say juice, or I don't know. Tell me a sentence of what he want. It was funny you say that, because I just thinking about, and you got me missing him now. So now I gotta hurry up home to go see him. But what I was gonna say was something happened, and I was showing. And he repeated my exact sentence verbatim. I forgot what it was, but it was just so funny because he just learning. I'm just enjoying seeing him grow up.
Yeah.
Like by in every aspect, from even when he getting me mad and not listening, it's still a beautiful thing. So I want to ask. So therapy. When did you ever? Obviously, did you go to therapy?
I did.
Okay. When did you go to therapy, and what was that process? And then after that, I want to say, what about your children going to therapy?
Okay.
Because this is a lifelong thing that they have to live with.
Right. So the first time I saw a therapist, it was court mandated. It was a process of me getting my children back. And it was counterproductive because I was afraid. I was scared. I had already had negative experiences with the social worker. And
what were those experiences? If you don't mind sharing, of course.
Okay. So the social worker that I had, we lived in a racist town in South Jersey. And when all of this happened, when everything kind of came out, and the first thing the social worker said to me was, "You are disgusting, you stink, and I'm taking your kids." That was the first thing she said to me.
What's her name?
Heather de Blasi is something, because I just found her on social media.
Oh yeah.
She doesn't work for DYFS anymore.
I'm glad she don't. But imagine the lives she's ruined, even with that. That's the energy she's been given.
And she was not an ally. I mean, I believe that social workers should be an ally. I did not do drugs. I was not drinking. I was fit. I was a victim myself.
Even if you it stems from that situation, those situations that happened that may have caused you to do that. So I definitely want to find her name though.
Yeah. But she initially blamed me, and my first thought, I clammed up. I'm like, oh, you're not here to help. So she was an enemy. I had my father as an enemy, and now I had this woman as an enemy trying to take my children. And so then when they mandated me to go to therapy, I was clammed up. I was not trusting. The therapist wasn't really caring very much. And I realized that I could just say what I thought she wanted to hear in order for me to get a pass so I can get my kids back. So that was the first experience. After that, I actually I employ a lot of self-therapy through meditation, self-care. I studied psychology in college, and I incorporated, communication, of course. I do not I don't silence myself even in my relationships. If I have an issue with you, I'm going to confront it, because you're not going to silence me.
Yeah.
Been there, done that. So
a force to be reckoned with.
Right.
Nah, facts, though. As you should, though. As you should.
And don't get me wrong. It's not that I'm completely insensitive. I will start with a question, and I'll express how something made me feel. I'm pretty tactful. That I definitely learned from having to deal with my dad.
Psychology.
Yeah. But no, I don't. I'm not afraid of confrontation, because I feel like that it could be, when you confront something, that's how you grow. You have to work through things.
Correct.
So by the time that for somebody I adored, who was really important to me, died.
Condolences.
And thank you. And I loved him dearly. Like, I felt like I had met someone who really understood me, understood the things that I went through. And he just died. And I was so angry. And I was just like, wait a minute. But I don't have much time left on this planet. How am I going to find someone like that again? And that sent me to therapy. I was like, I need help with this, because then I was losing sleep. I didn't understand why it hurt so much, because it hurt so much. I had lost my daughter, which was devastating already. But for some reason, this hurt, and I didn't know why it hurt so much. So I did sit down with a therapist, and we essentially had a breakthrough in like 1 or 2 sessions. And it was because we identified that I felt alone in the world. And because I had found someone that I could relate to, I was concerned that I would never find a person like that again. And that's what was keeping me up at night. So once I kind of came to terms, like, okay, Aziza, you've not met every person in the world, so clearly there's an opportunity for you to meet other people. I came to terms with that. I got through that, slight depressive state, and that's it. I was fine. Then I did start therapy again, but just managing my crazy life. Oh my gosh, I'm so busy and juggling. And I often get imposter syndrome, where it's like I achieve these things, but then it feels like it's not real, or I didn't really do it, or it was a mistake. I remember when I graduated William Patterson University with 2 bachelor's degrees. Thank you. And I graduated magna cum laude. Not knowing the school system, I had no idea what that even meant. Yeah. Right. I had no idea. I'm like, what's the big deal? Okay, I got A's. I had a grade point average of 3.9. But for me, they were just steps that I needed to take to achieve my goals, which was to raise awareness about sexual abuse. So I kind of diminished the value and the achievement. And so then as I started doing more things, I published my book, I, was dealing with these other opportunities. It became very stressful and hard to manage. So then I decided to, get therapy again. And my therapist does not deal with sexual abuse at all. I have, because I've so far in my healing journey, that he's like, yeah, no, you're good. You're good with that. But it is really about just managing stress levels because of my schedule. And I tell people that, one, you can't look at therapy as like it's a crutch, or it's a reflection, a negative reflection on you. Like, I think Black people specifically, because we have been through so much, we're kind of expected, and a lot of that might be our own expectations of ourselves, to just handle shit. Like, you're just supposed to handle it.
Yeah.
You're just supposed to deal with it. Don't matter
Can't
how hard
sugarcoat
it
it,
gets. Yeah, you're just supposed to deal with it. Like, pull up your bootstraps, because if your ancestors got through this, of course you can get through. So there is a stigma surrounding getting mental health help in the Black community.
Unfortunately.
And it doesn't need to be, right? It doesn't need to be. If you need help, you need help. Like, that's literally the first step to healing, recognizing that you need to heal, whatever it may be from. So even through my nonprofit organization, we've partnered with BetterHelp to provide free therapy hours to women to women who in low income communities. So that was like a huge win for me, because
hey, congrats. Hey, I would love to be part of something like that. That's on the way for sure.
Thank you, but
that's major. Don't even minimize it. Do not minimize. I'm saying that is major. Honestly, no, congrats.
Thank you. So really happy about that. And just keeping the conversation going. And of course, me speaking out and not feeling so alone. It's such a weird space to be in, because you have a horrible experience, right? And you feel alone within that experience. But then at the same time, when you find out someone else has had the experience, it makes you feel better. And
that's a weird thing. I understand what you're saying, because it's like you want to feel like you're not alone, but at the same time, these experiences are horrible.
Right. It literally requires, for you to feel better, kind of requires for someone else to suffer. And it's such a weird space.
And I think that's something that we should explore more, like psychologically, because why is that? It's kind of like the comparison game. Like, obviously the comparison is the thief of joy, but kind of like how we compare our lives to other people's lives or whatever it may be. It's kind of it's a weird it's a weird perspective, whatever you want to call it, that I think we should definitely explore more. And I don't think it's even meant out of harm. It's just more of like, I guess, is it human nature?
It's a human nature.
Human nature?
Yeah,
okay.
It's a human nature. I mean, when you hear misery loves company, it's a human nature. We are social beings, right? We need human interaction in order to thrive. So when you feel alone, it could be debilitating. When you feel like you're by yourself, I mean, that's even when you think about the prison systems, them doing the isolation, right? And not allowing a person to be around anybody else for like days and weeks and months. People will go crazy because we are built to, we are social creatures. Correct. We have to interact. The interaction also, it's on both sides. Yeah, we can party, we can have fun, we can enjoy things, we can work together, but sometimes suffering together as well makes the suffering not so bad. So, you know, it's a very kind of weird space. It's almost kind of cringy feeling, but yeah, when me speaking out and identifying, well, it's more knowing that what I'm doing, again, is fulfilling my goal, which is to help others to take what happened to me, which was horrible, and use it for something positive. Correct. Right? It's empowering. So yeah, that's what one of the things that drives me, and it's so therapeutic. It's therapeutic. Writing. This actually started off as a therapeutic work. I did not intend to publish.
Writing is therapeutic.
Yeah.
So let's go into. I was gonna go to that after I had two more questions, but I'll come back to that. So let's go into how the book came about.
So, Unashamed, The Life Tainted.
Y'all gotta make sure y'all see. And we're gonna get where everybody can support this at too. Is it on Amazon? It's on Amazon.
It is on Amazon.
Okay.
Yes. It's
perfect.
On
Amazon.
Y'all see. But Charlamagne the God thinks it should be made into a movie. So, you know.
Oh, I read Charlamagne. I read both of his books. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I called into the Breakfast Club one day.
Shout out to the Breakfast Club.
Yeah, shout out to the Breakfast Club. And they asked a question. The question was, what was the youngest age you've been left at home with your siblings? and mine was 9. So I called in. I actually got through, and I said I was 9 years old. And they was like, wait, no, you lying. And I'm like, yeah, I was 9 years old the first time I was left home with my siblings. And they was like, oh, but it was like your mom went out really quick. And I'm like, no, I was left the whole day with them. I had to cook.
You got that recorded? I want to make sure we
I
put
do,
that in.
Okay,
bet. Send that to me. We're going to put that in the reel.
Yeah. So that led to me explaining why. And what the circumstances was, and I essentially told them, you know, about what happened to me, my story briefly, and I said that I wrote a book about it. So Charlamagne shouted it out. He ordered it right there on the air, and after that, later on, I must have called in about another question, and he remembered me, and he was like, yeah, he read the book. He was like, it's crazy. It should be made into a film. So I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. It's available for option. But it did start off as a therapeutic work after escaping my father, having my kids. My daughter, who was disabled as a result of the incest and the close familial relations.
Genes, yeah.
Right, the genes. She had a condition called spinal muscular atrophy, which essentially made her completely dependent on everybody. She couldn't walk. She couldn't sit up on her own. She had respiratory issues. So she was on respiratory support at night. And she was in the hospital. And I was just reflecting on my life, you know, everything that culminated to this moment that was really so bittersweet, because if she would have expired much earlier if my father was still in control, and then he blamed me for her illness. So when she started showing signs of the illness, he told me, because he delivered her, and he told me that it was my evil milk, my evil energy, and you know, he always came up with these things to blame me for. So then to be there, and we're in the hospital, and she is being helped, even though, you know, the moment is difficult. I'm just thinking about everything that I went through, and I decided I wanted to write it. Now, I had always been a writer. I used to write the treatments for my father's music videos, for the music videos that he directed. But I also kept a diary. And the reason why I had stopped writing, aside from whatever assignments he would give me, was because I started writing about him abusing me in my diary, and my brother found it and gave it to him. And of course, there were consequences. So that traumatized me enough to where I stopped writing. So now, after escaping him, I was exploring writing again, writing poetry, and really then reflecting on the things that happened to me. I decided to start writing them down. So it was purely for therapeutic reasons. And then in the process of me going to school, so a couple of years later, my daughter died. I definitely I abandoned the writing because I was devastated from her passing away. Decided to go to school, and I took a public speaking class, and I decided to use my story and to write my speech based on, to bring attention to domestic violence and sexual abuse. And while I was reading it, there was this one girl who had been quiet in the class the whole time. She sat all the way in the back, completely quiet. She barely answered any questions, did not engage with the students. She was crying. So when I finished my speech, she came up to me, and she said, "Thank you. My father molested me as well, and I had never told anyone." And she felt less alone now, and she hugged me. And that's when I realized that speaking about what happened to me could help others. So I decided to publish the book.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. No, we definitely gonna put this at the bottom. We're gonna make sure people could support this, and obviously the organization, because what you're doing is vital. It's God's work. And I always say with Evolving Through Experience is life or death. So what you're doing is life, because the only option is obviously death.
Yeah.
So definitely continue.
Death is inevitable.
It is.
We don't want to get there faster then.
Exactly. We don't want to get there faster, but even just from death being physically, but obviously people dying mentally and spiritually.
Right.
And those are the things where I want people, let's choose life. Let's choose life for those. Those are the ones that we can control while we're here.
Right.
So let's always choose that. And just because we on it too, outside of the book, I want to talk about this. I know we mentioned it 3 times, and again, my condolences. What can you say? Obviously, I know what you said pretty much helped you throughout this entire process with obviously having your children. So what could you say to somebody that's going through this process? And like you said, obviously no judgment for either way they feel, but now you had a child by your father unwillingly. Obviously, it wasn't your choice, but now at the same time, this child that obviously the other children you all loved, now you losing them. So what could you give to somebody that's a thin line that goes back to how we may be sad and we want somebody else to be sad with us for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. So how do you navigate through that? Or what could you say to somebody that, all right, they just had a child by their own father and it's like they didn't want the child, but then the child dies. Like, what's the process of navigating through that?
Ooh,
that you could give somebody?
Yeah. Well, wow. Gosh. That's a deep question. Mm-hmm. What would
Hey, this is what we're here for, evolving through experience.
Yeah. So for me, okay, I think that my perspective may be a little biased because I already had accepted my children for who they were as souls, right? As spiritual beings having a human experience as their individuals. So I did not see them as a product or result of the negative things that happened to me. My daughter, who was physically disabled, as I saw her struggle, I mean, there was times that she spent months in the hospital. Which then we talked about having to forgive over again. This was a manifestation of what my father did that she was completely innocent in.
Correct.
And I think that's what's important. The children are innocent. The children are innocent. However they come here, they are innocent in their existence and their experience on this planet when we decide to have them. Like they don't have a choice in the matter, essentially. So I recognize that. And I think that, like we talk about, so there's behavioral therapy, there's cognitive therapy, right? There's different forms of psychotherapy. And essentially those are focused on changing your behavior and not necessarily changing your mind or your thinking, but really changing how you respond to your thinking and your mental perspective. So for me, it's really about understanding the facts and taking responsibility to understand the facts. My daughter was not responsible for what happened to me. Therefore, I cannot hold her responsible in any way. And I feel like when a person applies their trauma onto the child that may be a result of that trauma, it's in a way indirectly holding the child responsible. Like, say, for instance, when you're in a relationship and you and your significant other, your baby mother, your baby father, you have issue with them or they hurt you in some way, and then you treat the child differently. Like, for me, that's the same thing. Like, and I see it all the time. Well, I'm mad at your dad, so therefore you're being punished more and I'm yelling at you more. Like, but the child has nothing to do with it. They're innocent in the situation. Agreed. So I think cognitively and consciously and intentionally, anybody that would be in a similar position like me, you have to understand and just know for a fact that the child has nothing to do with what happened to you. They may be a result of it, but you can't hold them responsible for what happened to you. Correct. And I think that's the first step. And then from there is to then build a relationship with them. Even if they're a baby, build a relationship with them for them as an individual. And then also identify the things that you see in them that is a reminder with you of yourself. Now, where that could be tricky is that if you are not healed and you're still blaming yourself for the trauma, because a lot of people, a lot of women and men, they blame themselves for drawing the negative attention. You would have to work through that before then you could genuinely identify the positive traits in your child that may be a result of that. So it's definitely a work, but the first step is to recognize the facts, right? To recognize the facts. And reading, to me, reading is so important.
Oh, we about to share some books then. I know some books. I got some books I love.
Really?
Yeah. I'm about to add yours to my collection too.
Okay.
We definitely added it.
Okay. Yeah, reading is so important. I recently read a book called The Body Keeps the Score. And it is about how sexual trauma impacts people, but on a scientific level, how it affects the brain, how it affects our ability to function. And it's extremely enlightening. So reading, The Body Keeps the Score. And then of course media. I'm a huge fan of media. I think media is such it's such a powerful form. But even like you mentioned, the right media, because the wrong media will control the masses just as much as the right media will have an impact. So media. That's why I think, stories and tales and even social media. That's why I use social media. That's where the young people are. That's what they're using. And you could use it combined with music. Music is powerful. Combined with dance. Dance is powerful. And all of these things help to educate. And it could be used to have a positive impact on society. So I think that you have to be intentional. Anybody that has suffered any kind of sexual trauma, you have to be intentional. You first have to make a decision that you want to heal, and then take the steps necessary to heal. So I hope that answered your question.
It absolutely answered it perfectly. And I think it's going to, I'm never going to say I think it's definitely going to help others. And with that, I have two questions I want to make sure I ask. First, I want to say this, a book that I think you will probably enjoy as well. It's called What Happened to You. It's by Oprah, and I forgot the other person's name, a doctor. And it said, so for example, and I think Charlamagne actually mentioned it too one time, and I think that's what actually opened up the book for me. And I have it, but it's saying, you know how sometimes you get in an argument with people, or even in the past, and people be like, yo, what's wrong with you? Like, they're like, what's wrong with you? And that could be people going to get defensive automatically. Like, what you mean, what's wrong with me? So instead of saying what's wrong with you, say what happened to you. It changes the tone. It changes the question. So it's like, what happened to you? So now it's like, what's happened to you to make you act this way? Not what's wrong with you. Because now it's like wrong. It sounds like you doing something wrong. So somebody's going to be defensive. But you say what happened to you, and then it makes the person sit back before being defensive. Dang, what happened to me that caused me to feel this way or react this way? So I definitely think that would be a great book. I'm sure you would enjoy. But with that now, obviously with the children, so when have your children, or this is for anybody that may be going through this process, when do the children go to therapy, or have they requested to go to therapy? Because like I said, this is something they got to live with. So what's the process of helping them heal? At the same time, they didn't necessarily go through the experience, but finding this all out later on in life, now it's like you 10, 13 years up, and it's like, I have to process all this at 13. So what's the process of that, so somebody else can also know that it's possible for them and their children?
Yeah, well, again, going back to open communication, I mean, of course, it's not like my kids identified that they needed therapy. It was something through our conversations that I then introduced, like, well, how would you, because look, I understand what my limitations are. I can acknowledge that, no, I'm not perfect and I don't have all the answers. So I will definitely give my children options. They come to me with a problem that I feel like I can't solve. We will either then explore how to solve it together, or I will recommend something that may be outside that I think is helpful. And essentially that's what it ended up coming to. So both my son and my daughter, my second daughter and my first son, my only son by my father, they both have had talk therapy. They both engaged in talk therapy, and it was helpful for them. You know, they had their communication. They would come back and talk to me about it. That was surprising to me. Well, it wasn't that surprising, but because we had open communication anyway, then they could come back and talk about some of the things that they spoke about with the therapist. And then we actually recently started family therapy, which I believe all families should go through. Especially family therapy. even if it's just for the simple fact that there is someone who is objective to the situation, who's on nobody's side, and will mediate a conversation about your issues and your challenges, and everybody gets their chance to speak, and then you can explore and come up with solutions with your issues. So I definitely I recommend that family therapy, whether if there is known trauma or not, just because it helps in developing your ability to communicate with each other. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And in my family, well, my immediate family, it's not stigmatized. It doesn't mean that you're weak. Like, getting therapy does not mean that you're weak and incapable, because then you end up learning things and tools that other people don't know. And if anything, it makes you more powerful. It makes you more powerful. So
makes the world a better place. Yeah, for sure. So I want to ask you, where can people follow you at? Obviously, we're gonna put the book. I know it's on your IG too, but where can people follow you at? And then any last words that you want to leave the people?
So I am Aziza Kibibi everywhere. Aziza Kibibi.
Dope name.
Thank you. I'm TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Yeah. Everything is Aziza Kibibi. I was blessed with name, but that's one thing my father did do right with the name. Everywhere. I also, my website, azizakibibi.com. The organization, Precious Little Ladies, is preciouslittleladies.org. We are actually preparing to have an event in April for Sexual Assault Awareness Month and Child Abuse Awareness Month. It's our PLL awareness raising kite flight, where we invite resources, government agencies, anything that will help empower and facilitate healing within the community, come out to like a health and wellness fair, and also fly kites. So we provide kites for the kids to fly with our hashtags. It's okay to tell and not alone. And then they could get involved. They're involved civically, like it's a form of civic engagement, because now they're involved in activism by raising awareness, literally. So it's an awesome event. For last time we did it was 2019. The pandemic kind of affected it. So we're launching that again for 2024. And again, if anyone is interested in getting, free therapy hours through BetterHelp, email info@pllnonprofit.org, and we can go through the intake process. I think that's it. I mean, you go to my social media, you'll find everything else. Sign up for my newsletter on my website, and that's all the different ways to contact me.
Definitely.
Final thoughts. You are capable. Whatever you have been through, what you have been through does not dictate who you are. The decisions that you make in spite of what you've been through dictates who you are. So the choices that you make and your ability to rise above anything negative, any hardship that you've had in your life, is a reflection of who you are, not what happened to you. And I think my message is, one, not only loving and appreciating yourself, but also not allowing your challenges to stop you from progressing. We all have the ability to improve. That's one thing that I do. I have to say, I'm fascinated by the human species, that we are constantly changing and improving and adapting. And I think that is a gift. I think that's a gift. We all have the ability to achieve our potential in spite of some very horrible challenges that some people experience out here. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Always is. And you have the ability to reach it.
Couldn't have been said better. I appreciate it. Y'all heard her. Y'all definitely. They can donate to the organization as well,
yes,
correct?
please.
Okay,
please.
We're definitely gonna. No, for sure. We're definitely gonna put that out there. And you said the event is April.
It's in April 13th.
April 13th, so people could donate for that as well.
Yes.
Okay, so we definitely gonna put that out there. Definitely donate. Definitely get the free therapy. If you're a woman, is it just for women or is it for men too?
No, it's for men and
women.
Okay,
men and women. So get the free therapy. Obviously, if you want to heal, and truth be told, no matter how hurt you are, truth is you want to heal. So get the free therapy. Don't be ashamed of it. And I'm not sure if you heard of the app. I had a guest on my show a while back. Actually, I call it a healthcare company because I really look at this as therapy in so many ways, and helping people in every aspect. But it's called an app called Pink Cloud. And it's pretty much no matter whether you had sexual assault problems, drinking, drugs. It's $9.99 a year. We're sponsoring 20 people. Me and him are sponsoring 20 people because he was able to overcome. But no matter where you are at in the United States, you can find like help. Like if you traveling, you in New York or Atlanta, and you feel like you're having an urge or you're having a breakdown, you can go on the app and find a meeting going on at pretty much any time. Nice. It's going to show you where it is. And like I said, it's $9.99 a year. So we sponsor people to help them out with that.
Awesome.
So no matter where you at, you having a drug addiction, you have anything, and you want to pretty much get help, look, go to a meeting, get the help you need. So we're definitely, with you saying that, it reminded me of that. So like I said, y'all, get the help you need. It's meant to be. And now your story can inspire somebody else because the way you're feeling right now, somebody else is going through that or will go through that, unfortunately, but you overcoming it is a proof that they can do it too. So no matter where you at, let's evolve, because if you're not evolving, you are dissolving. And again, I just want to say I appreciate you coming on. This story was truly heart-filling, and I appreciate your transparency because, like I said, so many people that's out there going through this or been through this, unfortunately and fortunately, because, like I said, the level of growth that comes from it is just, that's the beautiful part of it. But letting them know that they can prevail is my biggest thing. So I appreciate you.
Thank you.
No problem.
You too.
For sure. So if y'all enjoyed another episode of Evolving Through Experience, make sure y'all follow us. Check us out on all platforms. Share with a friend. And like I said, if you're not evolving today, start. Because if you're not evolving, you are dissolving. Shop the brand, support the brand, and continue to evolve. I appreciate y'all. Catch y'all in the next episode. Peace. I'm a bad